Bonjour et bienvenue sur Armenolobby, l'émission qui s'intéresse à la politique et aux médias. Aujourd'hui, nous allons faire l'émission en anglais parce que nous avons le plaisir d'accueillir Diana Hincu pour parler de quelque chose qui s'appelle The European Diaspora Facility, que Diana nous aidera peut-être à traduire tout à l'heure. Diana est de Moldavie et comme je ne parle pas le moldave, elle a accepté de faire l'émission en anglais. Je vais donc passer à l'anglais maintenant. For once, we will not be speaking of Artsakh today, and instead we will speak of the European Union and diasporas. You know what they say, if you're not interested in politics, politics will take an interest in you. Well, one major political institution, the European Union, does have an interest in you, or more specifically, in the diaspora. As you know, at Armenolobby, we're interested in lobbying. Lobbying is not only about convincing political decision makers to do the right thing, as you see it, and when you want it. It is also about understanding what they are trying to do, what political institutions are trying to do, and engaging with them on their own terms. It can be effective to meet decision makers halfway and to take part in the spaces for policy discussion that they have opened. We might find that these opportunities for dialogue give us, Armenians, good opportunities to be heard. So that's what I had in mind when I proposed to Diana to take part, to give an interview for Armenolobby. We will try, and she will help us to understand what the EU expect from the EU Diaspora Facility, and through them, from diasporas themselves. And more importantly, we will try and to understand what we can expect from it. Diana, hello, and welcome to Belga High. Thank you for joining us today at the radio.
Hello, bonjour. Thank you so much for the invitation, Nicola.
Diana, I'd like to start by getting to know you a little bit before we get into the thick of the subject. As I said, you are from Moldova and you studied political sciences, and then I believe you also studied European integration. You worked in the government in Moldova. Then you joined this organization called ICMPD, that is an international organization dealing with migration, and now they're running this other thing called the EU Diaspora Facility. There's a lot of jargon in the program today. Tell me, how did you end up in Belgium and how did you take an interest in diasporas?
Thanks for the question. That's a happy story, actually. So as you said, I am from Moldova and I never had a migration history myself. So I always lived in Moldova and studied there. And actually my first background study is law. I'm a lawyer by profession. Then I did political sciences too. And then those two somehow made me be very interested in the migration phenomena. So I have been working for the last 15 years in the field of migration. But I was working for the ICMPD office in Moldova. So ICMPD is an international organization. It has its HQ in Vienna, a mission in Brussels, and a lot of local offices all over the world. So I was the head of office of one of the local offices in Moldova. And I was mostly working with that part of the migration, which is more negative, like trafficking in human beings, irregular migration, like the challenges that the migration posed. And then in 2019, when ICMPD launched a new initiative and started to work more on migration and development, more like on the positive side, then I decided to join. So when the EUDiF was launched, that was the first global project of the European Union that decided to tackle migration and development globally, and more specifically diaspora engagement. So I decided to join, but that was a hard decision, again, because I had to leave.
Because you had to move to Belgium.
Yeah, I had to relocate. And it was, I never had a migration history with my family, but I was working in the migration field for a long time, so I thought maybe I should try it myself to see how it works in reality. And then it was the Brussels destination. So it was the rain myth, how I'm going to move to a country, from a sunny country to a country with a lot of rain and a lot of political things in the European Union, let's say, bubble. And afterwards, we took the decision with the family to move all together. So I moved with my husband and my children 3 years ago during COVID. And professionally and personally, I took this challenge to be a migrant myself, to become maybe a diaspora at some point, and to work with this happy side of the migration, how diaspora and migration can contribute to the development.
All right. So you say happy side of migration. So let's talk about what this happy side of migration is. And that's at the core of EUDiF, of the EU Diaspora Facility. What is the EU EUDiF and what does it do?
In short terms, the happy side of the migration means the asset framing approach. It means that you define a person by their aspirations and contributions before you explore their deficits. Because in the migration narrative, a lot is about challenges, It's like you see the labels, the victims of trafficking, vulnerable groups, irregular migrants. So a lot of the narrative revolves around how we do overcome the challenges.
So you're looking basically at the potential, not the problem.
We look at what contributions can be brought by those migrants and how they can bring their transnational experience. So that's EUDiF, like in short, as an approach. But if speaking technically, that's the first initiative that the EU created in 2019 with a global approach. What does it mean? So we help governments and diaspora too to collaborate, to create partnerships together, to support each other, to understand better each other in terms of diaspora engagement, which means that we want to create a diaspora, in our project jargon, we call it ecosystem, to create some synergies between the efforts. Sometimes diaspora can contribute not only with the financial capital, but also with their social capital.
But maybe to be specific, tell us in different ways, what kind of contribute? We're talking here about diasporas contribute to the country they relate to or they come from, right?
Yeah.
So if we're talking about Armenians, it would be how are Armenians in the diaspora helping Armenia, right? In what ways, according to your organization, does this happen? So it can be sending money to your family. What else is there?
It can be that you use your connections to mobilize diaspora to help in a crisis. It means you can give access to your networks all over the world and to transfer knowledge that you gained abroad. It means you can bring some pioneering ideas in different sectors. For example, you want to innovate the heritage tourism sector. Yes. That's a possibility where you can tell everybody abroad what is a nice heritage site in your country and bring new ideas like storytelling in heritage tourism, for example. You can bring investment by connecting people. You can help people understand or like transfer your global mindset to different things and different sectors, including education.
Right.
So there are many ways where diaspora can contribute to their countries of origin.
There are many ways, and I think listeners will recognize a lot of what you've said in their own Armenian experience. Yeah. When you talk about transferring know-how, starting projects, and so on. So why is this an object of policy? It happens, of course, and we imagine it happens in many different countries in different ways and between the diaspora and the country that they relate to. But why is the European Commission interested in this, and why did they set up EUDiF?
I think the role of diaspora is well recognized by the European Union, especially over the last 2 decades. There were some EU policy responses as well, so it's formally recognized. The first time the European Commission put it in a document so that we formally say it, that diaspora can be agents for development or for change, that was in the communication on migration in 2005. Then there were different other acts and directives that helped people to understand that diaspora can be a very strong actor. Afterwards, a lot of governments started to create institutions focusing specifically on diaspora and creating or developing diaspora policies. So knowing your diaspora, communicating better with your diaspora is an effort that is very well seen by the Commission. And in the new Pact on Migration Asylum, it's the same. They are recognized as agent for development, as agents for integration, for different other things.
There you're talking about ministries, for instance, in Moldova or in Armenia, the Office of the High Commissioner for Diaspora Affairs. Those are the institutions that engage with the diaspora on behalf of their own government. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
And so you support them. You help them to do their work.
Yes, so we do, what we try to do is to connect, to facilitate the dialogue, to put them together so that they can know each other better.
Right.
And they can find different ideas, concrete ideas, not just at the policy or advocacy level, but also concrete projects that can be brought to the countries of origin. So just to be clear, our mandate is development related. So we work with diaspora and so that they can help the development of their countries of origin, not the countries of destination, but the diaspora who resides in Europe. That is the geographic coverage that we do, but we engage globally with different regions. At EUDiF, we engage with different regions in the world, like from Latin America to Asia, Africa, and different other regions that are interested in that. So, for example, if you look at Moldova or Armenia, two small countries, after the collapse of the Soviet Union, they relied a lot on their diaspora, not only because of money, but also of the brain gain, of social capital they had.
Yes.
So there is a lot of potential there. And in the last 2 decades, the European Union started to put a lot of effort to see how they can capitalize on the strengths of diaspora as experts, as organizations, as networks, as actors. So depending on the type of stakeholder. And we have a holistic approach, so we don't do only dialogue or only research. But we combine those things and we have a full menu of services, what we can offer to diaspora.
So tell me about the services you offer.
With pleasure, with pleasure. That's my favorite topic. So we have a few components. So I'm not going to talk in terms of the technical way how the project is seen, but more to understand how you can access our services, right? So we do research. The first step when we started the project was to know who is there. So we did a research. For example, we mapped 110 countries to see what are their diaspora engagement efforts, trends, policy frameworks, to understand what is there, who is interested in that in different regions. Then we did specific case studies on different topics to see, for example, how diaspora invest in heritage tourism, how diaspora mobilize for crisis, how youth diaspora can be engaged, right? Then based on this research, we tried to connect with them. You know, I think diaspora is a contact sport, so you really have to meet the people you want to engage and to bring them to the table. So we started with dialogue activities too, like forums, consultations, regional tables, webinars, different kinds of engagement to understand what is or what are the needs and priorities.
So you went around Europe with regional roundtables?
Yes, so we had 2 types of events. There were diaspora consultations done with diaspora coming from the countries of origin, with the countries that we work, partner countries so-called, that reside in Europe.
Right.
And then we organized regional roundtables with governments from those countries. So we actively listened to both of them, and then we merged those needs. And so now we do the matchmaking. Like, you have that need, diaspora wants that, maybe we can put you together and we can offer some guidance, some practical support.
You mean you do matchmaking between the governments and the diasporas?
With their interests, I mean.
Yes, of course.
Like, metaphorically, is with their interest. If there is a government who is really keen to better know their diaspora and communicate better, but they don't know how to do it.
Right.
For example, in Moldova, the Bureau for Relations with Diaspora, they wanted to engage more their highly skilled diaspora or like academic diaspora in the education sector. So they asked us how we can do that. There is any model that we can mobilize them like in a very structured, very concrete way? We said yes. We offer also capacity development, which means we offer guidance, trainings, consultancy, how they can do that better. So, okay, we said we will bring diaspora experts because they are more aware of what are the needs and who are there. We will provide a roadmap for you, some guidelines, so that you can pilot a scheme. And then with that scheme, you can scale up on different other sectors.
And did it work?
Yes, EUDiF.
Yes. So now it's operational.
Yeah, they have a co-working hub. It's called the Diaspora Co-working Hub in the higher education sector, and they want to scale it up to other sectors. And recently, actually, I was contacted by someone from the Armenian High Commissioner on Diaspora, so that they want some peer learning, because Armenia has a program which is called iCourts, also harnessing diaspora skills for development and in the public sector. So what we do, we put them together and provide some opportunities for peer learning.
Between iCourts, or the people in charge of iCourts, and people in other countries who do similar programs?
Yes, we did the matching, so to say, between these two offices from Moldova and Armenia,
right,
so that they can speak together, to speak to each other and find together what other, say, similar experiences or what lessons learned they have from these programs, to learn from each other. There is no need to reinvent the wheel. A lot of countries already are pioneers. You can take it from there.
This is fascinating, and I'd like to explore a little bit more with you sort of the opportunities the EUDiF provides. But before we do that, I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you about what you've been doing in Armenia, or with Armenian organizations. I know you've been working with AGBU, for instance. Can you tell us a little bit about that project and other projects you might have had in Armenia?
Of course, that project always brings a smile on my face. That was a very pleasant cooperation with one of a diaspora organization from Armenia, a very well-known one called AGBU, based in Brussels, but also in other offices in Europe. So I was mentioning that we do research, we do dialogue, but also capacity development. So before I share a few results about this project, I want to explain how it works. So we do dialogue, research, and also launched calls so that the diaspora organization and governments can request very practical support. We call it operational support. So in this capacity development lab, we launched a call where diaspora organization could apply, and AGBU was one of the selected initiatives. So what was the purpose of this intervention? In Armenia, as we understood, the woman share in the business is very low. It's 20%. So there are a lot of women entrepreneurs in Armenia that would like to expand their businesses, especially after COVID, to import their products to EU, to be open to other markets. By doing so, they can also change some cultural attitudes towards women and gender roles, right? So we thought it's a great business case. And AGBU, which is a diaspora organization, what they wanted to do is to involve members from Armenian diaspora as mentors to upskill the women in Armenia who want to do entrepreneurship, like small businesses or medium businesses. So 250 women benefited from this intervention. I think it can be considered a small-scale initiative, but with great cascade effects. There were 20 mentors from Armenian diaspora involved from all over Europe, like from Cyprus, from France, from Greece, who went to Armenia and did mentorship sessions, did coaching, mentorship, trainings, how to do better on their businesses. It was very inspirational because women in Armenia were looking at those inspirational women who succeeded, Armenian women who succeeded in Europe, and took a lesson from that, you know. And
so most of the mentors were also women then?
Yes, that is a very fun fact because like all the trainees were women, all the AGBU staff that was involved in this action were women, and all the mentors basically were women. We had only one or two men among these 20 mentors that were involved. So basically we created a network of diaspora mentors who helped the women entrepreneurs, like the ones that benefited from this program. There is a program called Women Empowerment Program of the AGBU that we helped them to expand that. So this is one of the ways we can very concretely help the country of origin by involving diaspora mentorship. But more than that, we did not do only mentorship sessions with women. We also tried to enhance the capacities of AGBU as a diaspora organization. So we provided coaching trainings for them so that they, in the future, know how to do the matchmaking of those mentors, you know? There is, for example, there are a lot of volunteers in Armenia from Armenian diaspora who want to contribute. They don't know how.
Right.
It should be a platform to facilitate that. They have busy schedule. They have different hats.
What do you mean? It should be AGBU should be a platform to facilitate that, or there should be a platform to facilitate
I think
that?
the program, which is called Women Empowerment, that we helped,
Okay.
it's a platform where diaspora mentors can immediately plug in their knowledge, transfer of skills. Because sometimes the Armenian diaspora, they want to help, they don't know exactly how to do that.
Yes.
And they can refer to a program. If there is a program in place or an opportunity to do so, then AGBU, with the help of EUDiF, for example, can facilitate that.
So that specific AGBU program is still running, is it?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Yeah. So we also
if
developed.
people are interested, they can
Absolutely,
refer to AGBU.
absolutely. It would be my pleasure to share more details about that, because there are a lot of success stories after the project ended. Even like some of the diaspora in Europe, Armenian diaspora, they heard about this project, they read articles about that, and they contacted us on voluntarily basis to do so too. They said, we also want to be involved. There is a lot of knowledge that I can share without any money. So it was very inspirational to see how people, even if they are very far from their country and left so long time ago, their heart still warms when they speak about Armenia and the women in Armenia. They want to do a change. And these are not big words. I think this is something that you can do very concretely. As a diaspora, as individual.
Definitely. That is how change is done, one person at a time, definitely. Now, so that's a very inspiring and very interesting project, the one you just mentioned, but to help women entrepreneurs develop their business through sponsorship. You've talked about the peer learning, you called it. I think our listeners are learning the jargon as we go along.
Yeah.
So between the Armenian and the Moldovan government, are there any other ways that you have engaged with Armenia or with the Armenian diaspora specifically? Have you had other activities or initiatives with them?
So in our project, we have 16 micro projects or actions, we call them. That means targeted projects with different countries. We have a project with a very well-known diaspora organization in France called FORIM. We have projects with governments of Peru, Guyana, Moldova, different governments.
Right. So this is outside of the Armenian diaspora.
Yeah.
Yes.
What I want to say is that when we have so many contacts and so many partnerships with different countries, and they have similarities or possibilities or interest to learn, then we connect them. So, for example, I told you about this Armenia and Moldova peer learning opportunities. We also look further how we can involve the Armenian government or their success stories, how they can be shared further. So what we do, basically, we organize dialogue activities. For example, last week, it was organized a big future forum, as we call it. We organize it on annual basis, where we bring together different actors and offer possibilities for building partnerships. So at this moment, I can say that we have these two examples with Armenian diaspora, the one with Moldova and the one with the Women Empowerment Program. But there is a lot of potential how this can be followed up and how we can put in touch different diaspora organizations, including from Armenia, so that they can, learn from other organizations. There was one more, now that I remind myself about the last 3 years doing capacity development, we put in touch the AGBU with another organization. It's called Ashoka. It's also based in EU, and it's very much focused on social entrepreneurship, and they call diaspora like change makers. So we also brought them together at the same table to see how they do monitoring and evaluation of diaspora programs.
Okay.
So that was one of the other ways, how we fostered that learning between peers.
So now, suppose I'm in charge of a diaspora organization that works with Armenia. It could be AMAB in Belgium, Medical Professionals Organization. It could be there's a HOME, which is a charity. It could be SOAR or COAF, work more in the educational sector. There are many people in Belgium who are involved in these charities. how is EUDiF relevant to them? How can EUDiF help them?
We can offer a few things. As I said, we have a menu of services. So one thing you can do is that we want to know you better, which means that, first of all, we set up, let's say, a meeting where we understand what you are doing as an organization. Yeah, let's do a simulation now to see exactly how I can help your organization. Then there is a possibility we can make your work visible. Over the 4 years, we built a network. We built a data of contacts. We have a lot of relationship with different partners of different type. So what we do, we can also make your work visible and share it among our networks and contacts, and we can facilitate some partnerships that can be built between your organization and some donor organization, for example. The third thing we can do is, if we invite you at our dialogue activity, there is a great opportunity that you are exposed to more sources for funding, for expanding your network, for social capital, for different other things. Yeah, there is a diaspora ecosystem that we built over the years. And the third thing would be the operational support. So we have 2 types of support that we offer. Now it is closed because the project comes to an end, but there is another phase to come. So starting with the next spring, we will start another phase of EUDiF where capacity building and operational support will be available. So by this way, you can also benefit from operational support. It means capacity building, it means trainings, organizational support, professionalization.
Right. So operational support means you don't give money. There's a call for proposals. You don't give money, but you look at what they need in terms of what the organization needs in terms of, as you say, training, all kinds of different things, and you provide in-kind expertise based on your pool of experts.
Yes, that's right.
So, and if people are interested or know somebody who might be interested, where do they go? I think you have a website, eudif.org, is that right? .eu.
No, it's not that. I would love that the name and abbreviation is there, but it's called diasporafordevelopment.eu.
Diasporafordevelopment.eu. Yeah. But if you Google EUDiF, you'll find it anyway.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yes, we have a website. If you allow me 1 minute to tell you more about the website, because that's an important resource. So apart from the capacity development, research and everything, we built a knowledge hub. That means that we did mapping, research, and you can find a lot of resources on our website. So there is a map, first of all, an interactive one, where you can click on the country and you can find the information about the diaspora engagement trends in that country, including different reference points on institutions, partners, diaspora organizations. You can also have studies and all the products that we developed so far, like regional overviews. For example, you would like to know, okay, what is the diaspora engagement? What are the diaspora engagement trends in Eastern Europe or in Caucasus? Then you just click on the map and it will pop up all the information, which is a very updated information based on our in-depth research.
What do you call a diaspora engagement trend?
For
us
example,
simple people, yes.
Yeah, for example, tell me a region.
Eastern Europe?
Eastern Europe.
Yeah.
You want to know in Eastern Europe what are the interests and priorities and the frameworks in the field of diaspora. What terms do they use? What practices they have? And when you look in the Eastern Europe fact sheet, as we call it, as a resource, you will see that, for example, after the post-Soviet Union, after the collapse, the diaspora emerged in Europe because people were willing to live abroad for better lives and things like that. The trend would be that the countries in Eastern Europe tried to create diaspora institutions and diaspora strategies to engage with their people abroad, right?
Right.
You find about the terminology, the success practices, the initiatives. So basically, what exactly is specific for this Eastern Europe? For example, for Eastern Europe, they do very much focus on labor migration, right? Because the immigrants abroad left the country because of work reason. If you look in the Middle East, the terminology is different. There are different levels, for example. Even diaspora is not used everywhere. So if you have an interest to see in different regions how diaspora can be engaged, you will see that depending on the historical events that happened in that region, on the governmental setups, on different things that are happening.
It's about better understanding those specific diasporas so that you can engage with them.
You can engage only if you know them.
Yes, yes. I think I guess even for Armenians, there is always a need to better understand the Armenian diaspora, but we're probably reasonably informed on the complexities of the Armenian diaspora. Before we're moving slowly towards the end of the program, but I'd like to come back on the question of your definition of the diaspora. We've been talking about diaspora since the beginning of the program. I think it's implicit in what we've been saying that you have a very specific and self-aware definition of diasporas. We know that there's many different understandings of the word, but for EUDiF, the diaspora is people originating from a country and who engage with that country. Is that right?
Yes, but I don't have a short answer for that. That's a complex question. The diaspora word and connotation has to do with the history and also with diverse migration phenomena that happen in general, and in particular with the Jewish, Armenian, or African diaspora, right? And the word to be defined, either it's too broad or too narrow. So sometimes it's very difficult, because not all the countries use the word diaspora. So it has a Greek origin which means spread out, but in many countries they do not use the diaspora term. In Central Asia, you will hear compatriots. Mm-hmm. In Asia, you'll see overseas. In Egypt, it will be expatriates, right? In Moldova and Armenia, there'll be a strong understanding of the diaspora, which means the immigrants and dissidents. At EUDiF, we define it, as you said, like immigrants and dissidents of immigrants who maintains links with their country and are willing to contribute somehow to their country. So it's not only about leaving the country and in 2 months you become diaspora. It's a bit more than that.
Right. So the Armenian diaspora has institutions and organizations, like the radio stations where we are now. Is EUDiF interested in those organizations as well? So those organizations that maintain and sustain diaspora life, whether it's culture, the church, the religion, the whole range of those organizations that provide services here and sustain the community, and the community that ultimately contributes to Armenia. Is that within your remit as well or not?
We are interested in diaspora in general.
Right.
Of course, we have a geographical mandate. As I said, we work with diaspora residing in EU, which makes an organization like that eligible, right?
Yes.
For our, let's say, cooperation or dialogue. What our interest is also is that it is driven by the necessities. So if a diaspora organization which resides in Belgium has a development focus, depending how you define development also, is it related to cultural too? And if they're interested to help the country of origin, not only the country of destination where they do reside, then yes. Like everything which relates to diaspora efforts for development,
yes,
but bringing back to their country of origin, like Armenia in this case, then yes.
Fantastic. Another question, and we're really nearing to the end here because our time's almost up. What about advocacy? The Armenians try to do the name of this radio program is Armenolobby, and it's a reference to advocacy, to how people are trying to raise awareness among Belgian institutions, European institutions, of the different problems of Armenia. And as you know, there's been the very serious problems in Armenia's neighborhood. There's been ethnic cleansing. There's been repeated wars and so on. Is EUDiF interested in advocacy in any way? Or do you have a specific approach to that? Is that on your map, or is it just too sensitive a question?
I have a finding and an example to give. So here to answer that. First of all, when we did start to think about operational support or how is the guidance that we can offer, we mapped the needs. So definitely diaspora advocacy and lobby was one of the needs that diaspora would say, we also want a platform to do so, right, especially when it comes to EU institutions, right? At that point, what we decided to do is also to look into different target groups of diaspora. Women, for example, youth. And I will give you the example with the youth diaspora. So we work also with the youth diaspora, and especially the ones that are really willing to make a change or to be heard in different parts of the world, including in Brussels at the EU. And at our forums or in our program, we also have this component, which is called Working with Youth Diaspora. And recently we had a youth diaspora competition where a few young diaspora organizations participated. One of them, it's called Diaspora Vote.
Right.
It's exactly what you are saying about advocacy. So what they want to do is to advocate for the more involvement of diaspora so that they have a space, so that the youth has a voice and that the EU institutions hear about that. So with this kind of programs, even little programs like Youth Diaspora Competition and the pitchers that participated, we offer them a space, how youth can be heard and how they can do diaspora advocacy.
Yes.
So the short answer would be yes, we are also interested in that, if this brings the development in the end.
Diana, thank you so much for spending time with us today on Armenolobby. I think you've shown us how EUDiF, although it's one of these complex EU structures, is actually an open door. It's full of opportunities, and I think if anybody among our listeners is interested or agrees with me that there is potential, they should contact you. Find your there's I suppose an interaction platform, some way to understand emails from your website.
Yes, absolutely.
So Google EUDiF, go to the website, which is
diasporadevelopment.eu.
Right. Go to and contact. Go and see Diana. Go and see her colleagues. See what they can do for us. See what we can do for them. And with that, our program is finished for today. I hope this program was interesting to you. I hope you enjoyed listening to Diana as much as I did. As always, I invite you and I encourage you to send in feedback, to give comments, suggestions. Maybe there's a guest you have in mind that we should be inviting. And I look forward to being together on the next program of Armenolobby.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Diana.